Now, if you are a team in the NFC South, we're not really sure whether the game starts or stops. We're not really sure whether the competition to win the division starts and stops. And we still don't know as of Monday. We may know a little bit more tomorrow because, of course, Saints Bucks play tonight. So that's still a critical game as far as are the Falcons going to still have a chance to get in the postseason or are they not? But feel like the bigger question that came out of yesterday's loss to the Steelers, 19-16, right there in the Benz Stadium, otherwise known as Terrible Towel Land. That was the craziest thing I'd
Good
ever seen in
Lord.
my life in the Benz. And we saw it and we're just
Stomach
unbelievable.
hurts.
But really, the most the obvious thing that came out of that conversation, that experience was the conversation that needs to be had. So Arthur Smith was asked 7 ways to Sunday, as he has been this entire season, about what's going to happen at QB, and here's what he had to say.
We got to get over this hump. So we got to look at everything. We got to get back to the other side of winning. So there's a lot of reasons why. It'll be good to be able to take a step back, but there will be changes made. We got to look at everything.
Whoa.
He's essentially saying that they have to look, and that is what they have to do.
Right. Yeah,
they have to look across all positions. But in all honesty, if you put together the answer to that question that our buddy Mike Rothstein asked and several others redirected, if you put those answers together, you know full well that this is going to be a conversation dedicated to quarterback. Because just as Jarvis, just as you and I said yesterday, if you look across the depth chart, I mean, where else is there even a possibility to make a change to the starting lineup, and B, the depth to be able to do it? So that's only one position, and that's QB1. That is it. And then Arthur Smith did follow up to say today that, and trust me, it wasn't anything that was more specific or gave us any intel, people, but the question was asked of him today, and he did kind of acknowledge more on that the conversation was more and the evaluation was more about the quarterback. So.
And I think that like not necessarily because we've had these conversations before. I think that if you just look at different spots in that game, and I'm gonna lay them out for all the people who might think that Marcus Mariota does deserve to be the starting quarterback. If you all out there, I'm sure you all are. But anyway, I think the main thing was there were just so many points throughout the game where there was an opportunity to make a play.
Yes.
And when you think about going into halftime, there was a Drake London had run a comeback route overthrow, and then towards the end of the game, when they were driving and had the opportunity to go up, and take the lead, he had a throw to Drake London. It had no opportunity to catch the ball, overthrow, and it was just so many instances where. Now there was some instances where Marcus Mariota made a play, to Cardero Hodge. It hit him right in the shoulder pad. Should have caught it. That's the thing. But it was more so of what I just laid out before, as far as overthrows, missing reads, and from a footwork standpoint, your feet aren't even right. Like when you're making throws, you're not stepping into your throws. So that's why you consistently overthrow your guys. And we're not talking about little cockroach wide receivers. Like I'm talking about guys who are 6'4" and 6'5", who have wingspans of NBA power forwards. You know what I mean? So this is something that we shouldn't be talking about when you're talking about a 7-year veteran. Now going into his 8th year. You know what I mean? So I think all of those things kind of lay out when you look at it. And then to add to that, we have 2 game back-to-back weeks of game of Marcus Mariota in the game with an interception.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And then also to add to that, how about this? The defense in back-to-back weeks hasn't given up over 20 points.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me with all this talent that you have drafted, all this draft capital you invested in this team, when I mean specifically pass catchers, and you still trying to sit up and tell me that your defense gives up less than 20 points in back-to-back weeks?
Yes.
That's a problem. If you can't take advantage of that, offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith. Yeah. So, and I even kind of broke those guys down into two different hats, right? Offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. You can kind of, do what you need to do. But head coach Arthur Smith, this is who I'm talking to. Head coach Arthur Smith. You need to make a decision that's best for your team. And Marcus Mariota even put it best. I'm not saying he said bench himself, But he did say that the coaches have to make a decision that's best for the team, and it's time. It's time for Arthur Smith to make a decision that's best for the team. He made a decision coming in as we go along through the season. And I was right along with him. All right, cool. You don't want to put the rookie in there. I get it. I understand that part. But now it is time for you to make a decision that's best for the team going forward.
Yeah, because like you said, your defense did its job for the most part. It went bend but don't break.
Yeah.
And they've done that. Right. They've pretty much done that for 4 games. And you pretty much for 4 straight games scored under 20 points. And that's really not that difficult a thing to do. I mean, we're talking about, like you said, if you look at the opportunities, getting 3 touchdowns, because that would have won it for you yesterday. Heck, 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals would have won it for you yesterday, because let's not act like the Steelers were able to get more into the end zone more than one time.
Right.
But you couldn't do your job. And then, like you said, someone who's been in this league for 7 years. And don't get me wrong, Minkah Fitzpatrick is a dog. So he was probably going to catch that ball regardless. But you've been in the league for 7 years. There's no way in the world it should have been that easy. I mean, I could have picked that thing off. And that's a scary, scary thought, like for real, because no. But you look at it now, and it's an interesting thing, and we probably will have the conversation again tomorrow, because today is just postulating. Because honestly, if the Saints win that game tonight, we're right back to square one.
Yep.
And that could very much still complicate things for Arthur Smith, because then you're still in the playoff hunt. And what do you do now? Because again, we've all said we don't quite know the fullness of why they won't trot Desmond Ridder out there. But since you haven't trotted him out there quite yet, if you find yourself waking up Tuesday morning and you're still in the playoff hunt, will you try him out? But let's say that with 4 games left after the bye week, that there is still some semblance of an opportunity because of what the Saints do. But at that point, you still can't, Jarvis, overlook what happened in those 8 games that are in the L column. So what do you do as a Falcon? As the Falcon staff, do you focus on continuing to push for the postseason with QB1, number 1 under the helm? Or do you say, you know what? We really need to focus on evaluating Desmond Ridder to determine if we need to go back out into the draft and draft a quarterback. And if he so happens to get us, keep us in the playoff conversation, well, then that's a bonus.
I think, I look at it like this. I think that the Falcons can do all of those things you just said, right? And make a change at the quarterback position. Because here's the thing. Arthur Smith knows who he is. He knows that they can run the football against pretty much any team in the NFL.
That was the 6th ranked run defense, and they were out there, especially the second half.
In that second half, oh my goodness. I'm like, wow, look at this. The Falcons were able to run the ball 7 straight times and got down to where they needed to be in the red zone with a chance to get into the end zone. Imagine that concept.
Right.
So my whole thing is, we talked about 1 or 2 plays or 3 to 4 plays in this particular game that Marcus Mariota could have made the right throw, and it could have changed the whole outcome of the game. We're talking about outcome changing type plays that he's missing. He's missed consistently. And I think that if you're going to stay who you are, as far as running the football as much as you possibly can and getting the ball in the hands of your playmakers that stand like this, stand behind the quarterback.
Right.
Why not? Because I feel like, and I'll go ahead and say this. I don't think, I'll go ahead and say it. I feel like Desmond Ridder can make those 1 or 2 throws that you need to make.
Yes.
And he might have a bad game overall, but I guess what? I know he can get those balls in there to where, especially that one towards the end of the game where you had Drake London with inside leverage on this man right there in the end zone. He's wide open. Oh my goodness. There's no way you just don't stick that ball in there. I think Desmond Ridder can make that throw.
Yeah. And
for that reason, I feel like that's one of the reasons why I feel like you can get a look at where he can be for next year and determine whether or not you're going to draft a quarterback or look at another quarterback in the 2023 draft. And also, if the Saints so happen to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, hey, you can maybe continue to, hey, we're going to go out here and win and try to get into the playoffs. You can do both of those things by making a change, because I think that Desmond Ridder can make those necessary throws that can change the outcome of the game. And we've seen consistently throughout this season that Marcus Mariota cannot do that.
Yeah, and like you said, he did what he did with the blueprint for the Browns and
Right.
basically stuck it to the stuck it to the Steelers and said, "Hey, I'm just going to run it every time, 7 times
Well,
in a row."
yeah,
And kind of can do. And so if that's the mentality and if that's the strategy and a strategy that's worked multiple times until it didn't work when you went away from it yesterday, but if that's a strategy that worked, right? And you look back at a team that was finding its identity when it played the Saints earlier in the season and now it's going to face the Saints again. Got the they've in terms of what they're going to do. Lamar Jackson, to be honest, you got the Cardinals who are in disarray, and then you got the Bucks. I think that those are winnable games with Desmond Ridder under center. The other thing that I think about is this: Locked On Sports today is going to tell you all the reaction that you need to know because I'm sure that we have our take on what in the heck is going on with the NFC South, but I don't doubt that they have their take as well, looking at this division and wondering who the heck really wants to win it. So if you want to know about that, the biggest stories of the day, or you want instant reaction to the top stories, and not just in the NFL, but all across the landscape of sports, check out Locked On Sports today. Of course, after you check out ATL Day Ones, they have, just like we do, we got our For the Culture. They call theirs Take of the Day. So check them out. Again, right after you check us out, make sure you tap into Locked On Sports today because it is definitely a good look for you.